Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, The 9 to 5 Musician. If you're new here, my name is Maggie and this is a channel dedicated to discussing everything related to living a creative and healthy lifestyle. Now, a big question that I get frequently as a teacher is, how do I know when my child is ready to start piano lessons? Of course, that's a great question, and sometimes the answers can be subjective, but I wanted to go over the 4 or 5 main questions that you can ask yourself and your child before you get going with piano lessons. As always, if you enjoy this content and find it helpful in any way, please consider subscribing and also give this video a thumbs up. So the first big category that I think people look at is age, of course. And so if you go onto websites or studio policies, probably what you'll see is a good age to start is anywhere between 5 to 7. Now, some teachers, including myself, will teach younger students than that, but I would like to group into this category age plus personality. Now, the reason why I say that is because I've had 6 or 7-year-old students come in and not really be quite mature enough to start because they're very shy or they're not so interested, whereas I've had 4-year-olds come in, be extremely excited and do very, very well. So you have to take into account both the age of your child and their personality. If you know that at a young age that they're already very quiet, very shy, and that they won't be able to open up, then maybe wait a year or 2. But if you know that you have a young one who's extremely outgoing, loves to chat, jumps into everything, is not afraid to, be loud and participate, then, go for it. I personally love teaching the really young students who have a lot of energy. I'm always amazed with what they can do. So again, just consider the age, but also their personality. The next little tiny detail that I would like to bring up is about motor skills. So at a very young age, of course, fine motor skills are not incredibly overdeveloped, but one of the fastest way to see if the child has a good handle over their fingers is simply their writing position. So when I have a new student come in for a lesson, I'll ask them to draw something or write down their name so I can take a look at how their motor skills are going. Now, something as simple as like a brace for the pencil can do a lot. And not to say that if your child doesn't know how to write that they won't be able to play, but that is a fairly good indication of like how the progress will be. If they write really well, they might be able to learn things more quickly at that stage. Whereas if they're still struggling a little bit with the handwriting and holding the pencil, then it might be a little bit slower. So that's another thing to take into account. So the next topic, it's quite important, is the alphabet. So in school, of course, your children learn the alphabet, probably the first main big thing that they have to learn and memorize and get to know. Now in music, we only have to use 7 of those letters, so that's a little bit simpler, and we use A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So just 7 letters instead of 26. So of course, that's much more manageable. However, if your child has never been exposed to the alphabet, or they're just learning, then you have to keep that in your mind. That's something that's a part of learning music as well. And it can be helpful because you're reinforcing what they're learning in school, but if they've never learned it, then it can be a little bit confusing at the beginning. So I would highly suggest just making sure your child is familiar with A through G, both forwards and backwards. Now, why backwards? Because when you go up the piano, you go forward in the alphabet, but when you go down, you have to go backwards in the alphabet, which is not something that most kids are used to doing in school. So before they come to lessons, just make sure that they're familiar with A through G a little bit, and it can make a world of difference. The next category definitely varies depending on how you teach. So this can, be a little bit different from teacher to teacher. But in general, you'll also want your child to be able to count at least up to 4, possibly 8 if they're comfortable, and just be very, familiar with those numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and be able to converse with them and not find them very challenging. So that's another thing that can be very helpful. I think often students and families are surprised to see how much math is involved in music. For instance, if you're thinking about a quarter note, which is one beat, I might often say when they learn a half note that, oh, a half note is, two quarter notes put together. 1 + 1 is 2. So there's a lot of math involved in music, even if, it's only the numbers 1 through 4, but it does come up frequently. So that's another good checkpoint to see if your child is comfortable counting either to 4 or even up to 8. Okay, the next really big one is the difference between left and right. Now, for piano, we not only, of course, need to know the difference between our left and right hands, we also have to know the difference between the left and the right side of the piano. So you can imagine this can get confusing quickly if your child is uncomfortable to identify either. Now, they don't have to be perfect. I personally play a lot of reinforcement games with the left and the right constantly at the beginning because I know it's something that will take time to perfect. And that's totally normal, but if you feel like your child it's stressful for them because it's such new information, maybe just make that clear to your teacher or talk about it, see what you can figure out, or maybe it's just not quite time yet. So another big important one is left from right. Okay, so that sums up everything with the students. Now I'd like to add one thing about the parents and family role. So, as the parent, what is your role? What should I do? How should I support? What should I do and not do? And it's different with every family, of course. However, the main goal is to just not be under-involved and not be over-involved. It's like, okay, so what does that mean? So being under-involved means you don't know what your child should practice at home, you're not sure what they're even playing, you don't know what page they are on in their book, and they can't answer any questions they have. That's like an under-involved. You're not really sure what's going on, and you're not able to help your child. Over-involved is like you want your child to be perfect, you're interrupting lessons all the time, you're giving your child answers constantly, you're not letting them mess up, and this is equally as bad. So we're really looking for that happy medium in the middle where if your child at home needs support, which they will, then you know how to just, buffer it a little bit, give them a little word of advice, and then send them on their way. You want your child to feel supported, that you know what they're doing and can help them if they need it, but also you're still allowing them to be independent and, most importantly, make mistakes and get better on their own. The student-teacher relationship is so important, but sometimes we forget about the triangle that is the student-parent-teacher relationship. It's equally as important. Now, I've learned so much from all of the families that I teach, and the more you teach, the more you get to know how to navigate all of those things, but it is something to be aware of as a parent when you're starting your child on piano lessons. Alright guys, that is it for today. I really hope that this gave you a good checklist of how you can check to see if your child is ready for lessons, and also if you yourself are ready to have your child take lessons. It's an undertaking for us all, but it's a wonderful one. So if you think your child is ready to take piano lessons or any music lessons in general, I would highly encourage you to think about each of these things so that they can get going as soon as possible. Alright, as always, if you enjoy my channel and the content, please subscribe and like this video. And I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!